Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for attending this session. My name is Syed Ubaid Ali Jaffrey. I am heading Offensive Security at Habib Bank Limited. The today's topic is very important and interesting in terms of threat attribution, where we will be actually unrevealing the cyber culprit, the intruder and a perpetrator, which you can see in my backside. We have just imagined that this is the one who actually impacts the organizations, who actually destroy the data, who is interested in damaging the reputation of the organization. In order to identify that cyber culprit, this topic is very important and is actually evolving in terms of the threat landscape. Thank you very much CS4CA for having this session and making the audience aware about the threat attribution and its aspect. The important area what I would like to highlight here is some important key aspect which we are actually going to discuss in the session today. We actually talk about the defense mechanism. We actually talk about the threat landscape. We discuss the compensating controls. We discuss the mandatory control. So here, what I would like to present here is how much effort would a hacker take in terms of making the payload or a script which impacts an organization. So what would be actually the effort required from a hacker perspective? So when we actually target the 80%, hackers requires to perform reconnaissance and then they weaponize the target. Once they weaponize the target, they are more interested in delivering it and exploiting it. So the most important part is the reconnaissance phase, where they are actually interested in seeking the organization public presence over the internet. And once they seek that public presence over the internet, they find the vulnerable doors where they can easily fit in and where they can easily access from. So reconnaissance is the most important phase where the most of the time hackers are investing it. And once they find the proper channel of accessing the path vector, then they are more interested in penetrating in the organization. So in terms of efforts, I have prepared a detailed orientation that how much time in terms of financial, how much value, how much skill set is required for a hacker, and how much investment they are actually doing for that organization where actually they are going to penetrate in. So it's not the matter about the organization who is actually protecting themselves, but also it takes a lot of time and efforts for the hackers as well, what they are actually doing in the space of cybersecurity. Importantly, in my next slide, I would like to present a very important statistics which makes an audience very aware about what the hackers are actually doing their best efforts as well. So in terms of efforts distribution from the hackers perspective, how actually they are doing it, it takes 30% of the hackers from the tools and software perspective to find out the exploit kit, like if they use free tools like Nmap, Metasploit and other open source utilities. So it takes 30% of their efforts in terms of tool. If they go for paid tool, definitely it would require financials. I would be discussing that financial in a bit later section. Similarly, 40% of the effort, like if you see the whole stack, it is the most important area where 40% of the time goes for the planning. If they are actually planning to do the phishing attack against the organization and then weaponize it, so they would require to personalize the content. They would be definitely finding the logo of the organization, setting up the content, making the content more familiar and more attractive for the employees of the organization to capture the attention. So making that personalized content would require some time, definitely. And also if they are more interested in making the attack more complex, like APT attack, so it spends even months and years. Like if you are reading the organization psychology and you know the control implemented on the organization, then you are more interested in getting your attack more sophisticated and not being detected by the organization. Similarly, 20% skill set and expertise are required. Why I am not actually discouraging this 20%, because of the chat GPT and other various aspect, the GPT model now help hackers, because this is the most least area where the skill and expertise are required. Because of the GPT engines, they have the capability to make you a sophisticated zero-day exploit and payload. And also this skill set is now required, that how sophisticated you are asking the GPT model, that I need to write a very sophisticated email to an organization asking them about the reassurance of a service. Similarly, they added up this thing, and from the GPT model they would be in a position to ask from that GPT model the sophisticated emails. And once they write the sophisticated email to our organization, they find the delivery method to deliver it using proper or commercial or open source mediums. And once the email is communicated to the organization, then they try to phish the user and the credibility. Also, there are other important aspect. The 10% aspect is the financial aspect. It may cost a hacker from $50 to 10 lakh or $1 million, depend upon the target of the organization. If the hacker is targeting a government level organization, law enforcement, or any important entity which runs the country, so definitely it would cost around $1 million. And if they are targeting a private organization where they need to write a special exploit, so maybe it may cost from $50 to $500 or $5,000 to write a custom exploit which is not detectable by any firewall or WAF or any other EDR control. Like we recently saw an example of Pegasus. It cost a lot, but it impact a lot to the organization and government level employees as well. Pegasus, it cost them maybe 2 million, $3 million to develop such code. And once they develop that code, that code actually impacts the iOS operating system directly without interaction with the audience. That's called a zero click. Importantly, the efforts based on the attack complexity is also divided into number of days, cost, skill, and success ratio. So I divided that into low level attack, that if the hacker is conducting a phishing attack or a basic malware attack on the organization, it would take 1 to 3 days to perform that attack, and also a cost from $10 to $500 to prepare a phishing kit. And the skill set is required low. That hacker doesn't need to be a very professional, skillful person. His skill is very less required, and the success rate of clicking on that phishing kit or phishing email or phishing link is moderate. The chances we have is around 30 to 40% to click on that link. Similarly, if we go for medium level attack, so there is a high possibility that the hacker is interested to find credential theft placed over the dark web or easy available forums, and also perform the ransomware attack against the organization. And more sophisticatedly, hackers are doing this. The mid-level attack are being faced by various organization, banking and financial institution on daily basis. And how much time is required? It would take 1 to 2 weeks to prepare a sophisticated malware payload, to customize the script, and it would cost around $500 to $10,000 for a hacker to hire a hacker, maybe another hacker to help him in terms of making the code more obfuscated, sophisticated, or making this code for that organization too invisible. So their controls, their security controls cannot detect that attack. So the skill requires is again moderate, because some basic customization and knowledge of exploit can impact that organization a lot. And the success rate is higher, because when the controls are failed and the attack becomes successful, so it impact a lot to the organization. Similarly, for the high level attack, these attacks comes in the zero-day exploit and advanced persistent threat, where our presentation focuses on. The advanced persistent threat are mostly those threat which comes from the exploit development, which are specifically designed for an organization, developed for a specific organization, and their motive is for longer run. Advanced persistent threats usually are those kind of threats and attacks where the hacker needs to be remain persistent for a longer time period in order to collect various sensitive information and data from the organization. And definitely that type of attack would require 3 to 12 months of time, and the cost effective of that attack is around starting from ranges $25,000 to $1 million. And this attack requires reverse engineering, highly sophisticated, and a hacker containing advanced level skill set. The skill set is very important. The attack ratio, the success ratio of the attack is very high, because when you are targeting an organization where you write your own code which nobody know, and when this code execute in that organization without knowing the payload, without knowing the attack complexity, it would definitely impact organization a lot, because the organization controls would be learning that payload first time, and during that first time learning phase, once the payload is executed, it actually impact the organizations a lot. So our focus on the advanced persistent threat is more, because for the medium and low level attack, the controls are there. We have a lot of control like DNS security, EDR, NDR, IDRs, also web application firewall, perimeter firewall. It actually lower down the intensity of the attack for the medium and low levels. But for the high level sophisticated attack, there is a high possibility that such control even got failed. To combat against such situation, what we have prepared a methodology. And what methodology I have prepared, that actually gives you a very good thing. But as far as I know, in this emerging age of cyber security, let me tell you one important thing very clearly, that in this emerging age of cyber security, we cannot reduce the risk to zero. We, in the early stages, there might be situation that we can reduce the risk into zero. There were certain scenarios, but after the coming of AI and machine learning, we cannot 100% commit that we can reduce the risk to zero. Even in early stages, we didn't commit the risk reduces to 0% at certain stages. But now we are 100% sure that we cannot reduce the risk to zero. Now, the methodology for threat attribution is divided into 5 important phases. And those phases are the technical indicators is the first phase, where we are actually examining the IP address, domain name, malware signature, and known CVEs of the threat actor. Like what IPs the threat actor had used, what domain names he came from, what malware signature he used, and what known CVEs he exploited against certain organization where I am working. Like if I am working in a banking sector, so I would be more interested in seeing that where this threat actor performed the attack in the similar banking organization. Similarly, in the behavior analysis, that I would like to know that what techniques and procedure the attacker has adapted to infiltrate in the organization. Similarly, from which geolocation that threat actor is actually performing the attack. That is very important to perform the geofencing. Once I know the geolocation that this attack is coming from north or south region, then I would be in a position to attack or even to defend from such attacks by geofencing those location and IP addresses if I'm not using those. Importantly, threat intelligence phase for the dark web monitoring and for the OSINT, we would be actually examining that our employees data, our organization data is not hosted, should not be hosted on the dark web, and it should not be appeared on the OSINT platforms. Also, the pattern detection in the large data set is mostly containing from AI and machine learning. Coming back to the methodology again, the machine learning phase is very important for the larger data set. So once we had adopted this methodology, from the banking perspective, I must say that we had reduced around 40% of the attacks which are coming from outside the networks. Once by adapting this methodology, now we are proportionate and we know that what attacks are coming to us from the banking and financial institution perspective. This is very important to know that on the cross origin and on different countries, what threat actors, like if you know the whereabouts of those threat actor, then you must know that what they are actually doing in the cyberspace. This is very important to know that which threat actor is doing what activities on the cyberspace. For the framework related matters, I have prepared a complete comprehensive framework for the audience. This framework is actually help to determine the attack, the intensity of attack, and also it would help you to collect the information about the recent incident, that what had happened in the incident. You analyze the behavior using MITRE ATT&CK framework, that what technique, tactics and procedure the hacker or the perpetrator had adapted. What were the motive of that hackers? That he need to sabotage, he need to financially damage the reputation of the organization. There was a political agenda against that organization. And you make the profiling of that threat actor. You are actually creating a self profile of the threat actor, that what he is actually intends to do. And also we are actually formulating the mitigation methodologies, how we can mitigate from such threat actor in the upcoming attacks, and utilizing those threat feeds to prevent attack against such threat actor. Like we would be analyzing the malwares and the IOCs, phishing and social engineering links, URLs, campaigns, toolkits, vulnerabilities and exploit, that what CVE'S the attacker threat actor had used to perform attack in certain organization. If I am having the same CVE'S, so I would have actually performed the patching. Importantly, I would actually restricting those services to access from external network. Also, if there are any C2 domains, criminal IP database, or any specific URL which is suspicious, notorious, malicious by nature, I would have examined those IP addresses and domain names and would put those IP addresses, domain name, URLs on the firewall blocking rules. So once if there is any anomalous traffic coming from those IP addresses, so it would automatically be blocked. Secondly, the dark web monitoring is also important, that where the stolen credentials, account compromise, threat actor campaigns were executed. So in terms of social engineering techniques attempted by the threat actors, so the malwares, how they are actually communicating, they are either improvising some attack, they are sending the malicious payload to the employees, or they are targeting the customer of the organization. So it is very important to know that the threat actor motive is for what reason, that whether they are interested in attacking the customer data set, they are interested in attacking the employees data set, where their focus is actually on. Dark web monitoring. the important slide in attribution is the challenges in threat attribution. Like there may be a possibility to get the false flag, like deliberately attempting or misleading the attribution effects. Lack of evidence, like there might be possibility that for certain threat actor we wouldn't have the insufficient like sufficient data to identify the attacker's pattern, behavior, motive. So there might be possibility that if the attacker is new, so we wouldn't have that much of information. Evolving tactic, because we know the previous attack pattern, but hacker might change their their approach of thinking, and they may change the method of attack. Similarly, resource intensive, exactly. It would require attribution, require expertise, tools, skill set. What this challenge we have covered from our framework. The framework is online and for the audience as well. And in this presentation, with what I will be giving in the C4SA, once the audience will receive the presentation, they would be in a position to click on the link and to anticipate the threat actor and the attack. And in the demo, we'll be showing that as well. Cross-border issues like jurisdictional complexities in global attack pattern we observe, and for every reason we have mentioned that what are the consequences of those challenges can be. And finally, the achievement what we have achieved so far is that we have prepared a complete framework for globally compromised organization dataset. I, along with my colleagues, set up this whole facility where we cumulatively collect the globally organizations data from 2019 till date. And from 2019 till date, we know that the victim name, victim address, threat actor, who were involved, which threat actor were involved, what CVE'S they had exploited, what institution they had targeted for, and what organizations were compromised during which which year. Similarly, we can also find the industries as well, that if I am working for a government institution, so I would be interested in examining the government entities and also the region. If my region has presence in other regions, like my bank has presence in Asia and Europe region, so I would be actually interested in assessing the threat actor who were targeted, the European banks. So I would be selecting the industry as a bank and threat actors who actually perform the attack in the European region. So I would get the list of those threat actors, that what attacks they had performed and conducted against those organizations. It's important to know that their tactic, technique, pattern, methods. If we know that tactic, technique, methods and pattern, we can examine and we can actually reduce the impact of the attack. So I will quickly show the demonstration. Here is the link of that repository. You just need to click that repository. It will be automatically loaded. It wouldn't cost you. It is free of cost. So people can automatically go and assess the impact and the organization dataset, and also learn the threat actor methodology, what they are actually interested, how they attacked the organization, what was the incident, what was the attack pattern. All the details are mentioned here.